Alrighty. We should be live now. Hello, everyone. Thank you all for being here. I am so sorry for being 6 minutes late this time. Uh-oh, I can hear myself. 1 second. There we go. Okay, got that fixed. Yeah, so I think I'm going to be... Excuse me, I'm sorry for my throat, too. I think what I'm also going to do is change the time of the stream to be 1 hour later than it normally is, because every single stream, if you go back through every VOD for the past streams, I'm always frantically trying to get set up just in time, and I'm always late. And it's because I eat lunch and then stream, but it's just cutting it too close. So I think that a later time like noon, so an hour later than now, will be a little bit better. So let me know in the chat if that's something that would be super inconvenient for you if I move the stream 1 hour later than it normally is. But I think that would be a lot more helpful for me, and I could prepare a little bit better. Because, yeah, every single stream, it's just the same, where I'm always late. But anyway, we got a lot of people in chat. Thank you all for being here. We got Echo, Iggy, Qwerty, Caesar, Tez, Tigris, Nicholas, Fox8, Eduardo. Thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate that. I'm sorry I keep clearing my throat. I should have warmed up my voice before starting. Hyper from Brazil. Thank you. That's so cool, Alvin. We get a lot of people from Brazil because I use Lua, and Lua is it was made in Brazil. Thoughts on libgdx? Libgdx is great. I used it for a while because when I was in college, they taught us Java. And I was really wanting to get into game development, so I'm like, well, I already know Java. I might as well try out libgdx and see how that goes. And I liked it. I thought it was good. But overall, I find Java a little bit tedious to work with. And I wasn't... It just didn't click with me quite right. So that's why I kept looking around and ended up going with Love2D. Major Canadian Assassin. I'm new here. Well, welcome in. Please don't assassinate me, but feel free to assassinate any trolls that like post bad stuff in the chat. I would appreciate that. I have at least 15 things to ask for thoughts on LMAO. Well, go ahead. I'm here for it. So you don't have to learn Java before college? Definitely not. I don't recommend learning Java at all. But Java is pretty common, especially in academic settings, just because it's pretty standard, it's old school, and it works. It works great. It's a great language, but I do personally find it annoying to work with, and there are slightly better languages, in my opinion. By the way, call out if the music is too loud. I need to, like every song that comes on, I basically need to adjust it manually. Excuse me, I'm so sorry I keep clearing my throat. Weltrill, hello. I'm seeing the next billionaire on my screen coding his dream game. God, I love. Be safe, you, the future billionaire. Well, I hope I can reach that point at some point. That'd be really, really cool. That's kind of you to say. Thank you. What am I doing today? Well, I titled the stream Fixing My Pixel Art, but, like, I never really know what to title my streams because I don't really plan things out. I just hop on stream and then we chat, and then whatever we want to work on is what we work on. But since I titled the stream pixel art, we might as well do some pixel art. I think that would be fun to do. So let's look around for something that I could work on. And also, I'm losing frames. I don't know if it's because it's probably because I'm streaming. But I was telling Wolf earlier how I felt like the performance was a little worse because I've been adding so much more complexity and a lot more layers. Which tile says this? I don't know. It's a combination of probably like 10 different tile sets, and then I edit them a lot, so they probably aren't even recognizable. Or maybe they are. Like, these cliffs probably are recognizable. Qwerty, yeah, you can ask any question you have on your mind. Fix the bridge. Oh, the one where it doesn't blend into the grass. Yeah, this one. I personally don't think this is that bad, but that is something I could do. In college, I was taught only C++. What is my take on C++? I think that C++ is great. It's a classic, and it's used in the industry. I used it at my first job out of college. and it's doesn't have all the quality of life features that like Java has. And you have to worry about data management. You have to worry about not data. You have to worry about data management in all languages, but you have to actually garbage collecting. You have to worry about making sure all your data is handled. So I guess it is still different than other languages. You have to worry about pointers too. So references. So there's a lot of fundamentals that go into using C++, but if you know C++, you can pretty much pick up any language because C++ is as complex as you need to make it. So C is a little bit more complex. C++ is basically C just with some quality of life stuff and makes it a lot better. But it's still old school. Pet shrimp or pet rock? I love pet rock, so that's a cool idea. What are my thoughts on Raylib? I'm not quite sure, actually. Raylib gets brought up once in a while, but I haven't really looked too much into it. Adele, hi, welcome in. C# is better. Yeah, I agree C# is better. I used C# when I was working at Microsoft, and I agree that is a little bit better. In fact, I would probably say C# is my favorite, like, large-scale, object-oriented language. I just like Lua for its simplicity, and I like Love2D. Really, it's not Lua that I like, it's Love2D that I like. Ooh, it is so laggy. I am losing frames like crazy. What's my game engine? This is Love2D. Here at the Federal College, we learned C and C++. Yeah, that makes sense. I imagine C++ is a common one. Based on my experience in U.S. colleges, I feel like Java was the most popular when I was in college. Anyone in college today in the U.S., do you still learn Java, or is it something different? Yeah, I was late starting, now I'm late joining. Yeah, I'm so sorry for being late. I do think I'm going to be changing the time of the stream to be 1 hour later. Just because I had to frantically set up after I eat my lunch, and I just need a little bit more time. How did I find Love2D? I found it when I was just researching every language. I was looking up all those lists of like, what's the best language to learn? What's the best game engine to learn? And I just found all these different options, and I tried them out. Because they're all free. You can try out any of them. So my recommendation always is to just try it and see what you think. So I'm sure there's more stuff here in this area. Like, I could redo this bridge. This bell. So this bell maybe is a little off. Yeah, let's see if I can change anything about this bell. I think that I can make improvements on this bell. So this bell was made by Ellie, and I already did make some adjustments to it, but it looks like I need to fix the shadow, too. The shadow is rendering kind of weird. It's very subtle. Let me zoom in the camera. So the bell has a shadow, but the shadow is like white for some reason. Sorry for that. I had to check something. Okay. I'm a student. Please give me advice. I love games, but I also love computer science. So should I go to university to study game development or computer science? In general, my advice for that sort of stuff is to make yourself as valuable of an employee as possible. And I do think generally specializing in a skill, like a hard skill, is going to be more valuable in the long run. So studying computer science, I do think is going to be more valuable because that puts you into a career of development. You're becoming a developer. You are becoming a coder. And when that's your goal, you're going to become a great coder. You're going to be improving your skills, and then you're going to be very valuable. You're going to be very valuable to regular tech companies, but you're also going to be valuable to game development companies because coding is a big part of game development. And I compare that to getting a game development degree, where if you got a game development degree, that really does pigeonhole you into the game development space. And it's also a little bit vague, isn't it? Because game development is a vague concept, whereas computer science or coding, that's a hard skill. You are a coder. But a game developer, that's very broad. That encompasses kind of some coding, but it also encompasses like the design aspect and the art aspect and the whatever else goes into it. And then the scary part is a lot of people that go into the game development industry, they don't really enjoy their jobs because it's kind of a saturated space, and then if they're stuck in that industry, they can't switch industries because they're stuck in game development specifically. I think that would be a scary spot to be in. So my advice for anyone wanting to go into game development generally is to find a hard skill that you can specialize in, like coding or graphic design or sound design, and get really good at your skill, become like an expert in it. And when you're searching for jobs or when you're like building your career, you can look for game development jobs or game development companies as part of this. But at the end of the day, you're just looking for jobs. You're looking for work. And if it's at a game development company, that's awesome. But if it's not, that also works. Because if you're a game developer and you can't pay your bills, it's not fun. You are not going to enjoy your time. So my view on college typically is a little bit more harsh, where I say focus on getting a degree that will get you a job. I know that's not as holistic normally as most people see college, because college ideally should be a place of learning. Like, you want to grow your skills, but in the real world, we use college to get a job, and if it's not able to get you a good job, then it's probably not the best choice. The shadows are not pixels. Let me see. The shadows are pixels. That's what I was mentioning earlier, is that the shadow underneath of the bell is screwed up, because I'm rendering it using a different method than this one. So like the shadow on this thing here, on this pedestal, this shadow is baked onto the sprite itself. I think I can show that if I pull it up, so give me one moment. I have to find it. Not fun being broke. Yeah, I agree. It's not fun being broke. It's a scary situation, and when you're broke and you're trying to make a game, you're not really able to make the game because you have to focus on making money. It's not transparent. Yeah. There's a lot of problems with it. I think it's because I'm applying a shader to it, but I want to show how I'm doing the shadows for this other thing. So what did I call this thing? I called it... I'm so sorry, I can't remember what I called this dumb thing. I'm so irritated. I can't find that thing. Where is it? What did I even call? I'm trying to find what this object here is called. It's definitely a tree, I think. And then no. Fire pit. What? Fire pit? I don't even know what this is. Fire pit. This is weird. I'm sorry for ignoring chat for a second. I'm trying to figure out, because I can't even remember what this is. I probably spent one day on those fire pits, and then I completely forgot it because I only worked on it for one day. Oh, so weird. Okay, so let's go to... What map actually is this? Okay, so that's that one. Let's go down to that. Yeah, so it is called a fire pit. So I have this file called firepit.lua, and it's a brazier. Okay, here it is. Found it. Found it. Sorry that took me. Jeez, that took me forever. That's the problem with having a big project, is that sometimes you just forget where things are. So this is the fire pit thing, and you can see that the shadow is baked into the image itself. It's these side pixels. But some things don't have shadows, like the sunflower. Oh, actually, the sunflower does. Okay, that was a bad example. How about... do these? I don't use these anymore. These are old, but they do have shadows. That's not a good example at all. I think like these don't. Yeah, these don't. So there's a shadow system in my game where, say, shadows. And let's see. Yeah, so fire pit. Wait, it's not a fire pit, it's a bell. The bell. I don't even know what this is. This is so weird. I'm so sorry about this. I'm like going through all this code and I can't remember what any of this does. Bell. This is dumb. The way I did this is stupid because I don't even know what bell is. It's just a string that says bell. And if you name something bell, it spawns a tree with the name bell. So bells are trees. That is so confusing. Oh my gosh. Bell. So what we need to do here. Oh, here we go. This is the problem. The problem is that I gave it the old shadow sprite when I need to say... I think I just need to say wide M like this. I think that's enough to fix it. Okay, I'm sorry I was not looking at chat for a solid few minutes. Sorry about that. Give me one moment while I get situated again. Am I on Twitch? No, I switched away from Twitch just because I want to get the chat displayed on screen. And having one place I'm streaming I think is a little bit nicer because then all the chat is in one place. You don't have to split it up. So let's go back to jail. Oh, that fixed it. Look. Yay! We fixed the bug. So what was happening is, how do I explain this? This shadow sprite property, it can accept a few different things. It can accept a sprite, and then it just renders the sprite. But if I pass it a string instead, like this, that means it's going to utilize this new shadows.lua file, and this is how it renders shadows properly. So when I use a sprite, like this other one, like these, like this one, this is, it's rendering it in an old way that I used to use shadows, and that's why it's a little bit screwed up, but now there's a mixture. What kind of math do I need in game dev? I'd say the biggest field of math that I use is trigonometry. Trigonometry is working with triangles, and the reason trigonometry is particularly useful is because you use trig to determine angles. So like consider how when the player attacks towards the mouse. The player attacks towards the mouse, but how does the game calculate that direction? How does the game know that it's supposed to be from here to here? And the way it does that is by using trig, and I'm gonna go ahead and show this real quick with a quick little demo. So here is the player. I need to make a, let's use a thicker brush. How do you make the thickness bigger? I'm not a, oh, here it is. I'm not a paint aficionado. Okay, here's our player. He's over here. Okay, and then he's going to be attacking a little slime enemy that's over here. There we go. And then we need to figure out what is this angle. There's an angle that we need to calculate here. How do we calculate this angle? Because the player is going to be attacking in this direction. And the way that you calculate it, well, at least the underlying math, is that it draws an invisible triangle. So here, look, you got a triangle right here. And you can calculate the distance, and you can calculate the angle by using SOHCAHTOA, and then getting this angle right here. So that's how that's probably the biggest example of using math, is how everything is a triangle in a 2D space, and you can use triangle math to calculate most things. Sine, cosine, tangent, yep, exactly. So this is something that you would learn in high school trigonometry class. It's a little bit complex, I'll admit, but it's also not something that you need, because there are libraries and functions that just does this math for you. You don't need to know this, but ideally you should. Ideally you should understand the math how this stuff works. Also vector math, yeah, that exactly. You don't even need to use SOHCAHTOA because in reality, I would just use vectors, because a vector you can just plug in this point and this point, and it'll automatically draw the vector without any math, and it gives you an angle as a part of that. But again, that's using built-in functions to do this math for you. That's still not you understanding the math fully. So it's a give and take. Peak art, I know. This is proof that I'm a phenomenal artist. New sub, the game looks great. Thank you. I appreciate that. So I'm glad I was able to fix this bell. I'm wondering if the top of the bell, so this little piece up here, maybe I can blend it into the wall a little bit more. Let's try that. So the bell comes in two pieces, and the song choice is very appropriate for what we're talking about. So here's the bell, and here's the bell back. So this is the part that is against the wall, and it just hangs the bell. And oh, and by the way, the reason it's split up like that is because when you hit the bell, it summons a boss fight. So you can hit the bell, and it rings, and it summons a man. So that's how the boss fight starts. Ah! So this is supposed to be the first boss, so I think I need to make it easier, because it's actually kind of hard. Think about buying my game, in my opinion, would I have fun? Yeah, but it's not for sale. It's a free demo. You can play it for free on Steam if you want to. It's a bit of an old demo, though. The version I'm playing right now it's like 8 months of development forward. So the Steam demo is out of date, and I'll post a video once it's ready to play this updated version. But, like, I've been keeping people waiting for way too long with that. Is the bell a wee bit too high? Yeah, it's probably not great, but I think part of the problem is that it's so tall, and it needs to hover above the ground. Because if it doesn't hover above the ground, then I can't ring it. Like that. So it does need to be high up, otherwise it wouldn't be able to like sway. Is Pirate Software a roach? Well, I saw the video, and I watched the that WoW video of him in that raid, and the raid leader called them to run away and ditch the raid, and he did that. I personally don't think he's a roach. I think he's fine. But I understand that's controversial, and it goes both ways. And you can make the case for he should have stuck around and like hung back, but I don't know if the call to run was made. I'm trying to think of what I would do in that situation. I think that he made the right choice to run. But I think that's I don't think most people agree with, oh, that looks really weird. I think most people disagree with that though. And I'm not a WoW expert, so I don't really know the details on how all that works. Cause it's just a black screen when you open the Moonshire demo, through Steam. If it, is it on Windows or Mac? If it's on Mac Intel, it might have problems. But, yeah. I don't really care about the WoW beef, but it's been 7 years and Heartbound isn't released. Yeah, hard to disagree. I feel that. Like, that's what I mean. Is I don't know the context of WoW. I don't know much about that drama or anything that happened. So, all I can say is I think Pirate Software is a cool guy, and it is sad that the WoW beef got very intense in that time. What games do I play? Mostly like Nintendo games, but I played WoW for a little bit. I play RuneScape a little bit. I play, let's see, I got like my PS5 in the background, and I got my big game collection. Is it visible on the screen? Yeah, you can see my game collection. I don't care for YouTube drama at all, lol. Yeah, I feel that. I like watching it, and I like keeping up with the details of it. Especially like Pirate Software, because I like Pirate Software and I like his content, and when there's drama about him, I like seeing what's up. So I feel like it was a little bit harsh. She got a lot of hate. I don't really know if that was deserved, but I don't really I don't know the details about how those WoW raids work, or even what their agreement was as a team, because if the team says that he roached and he did the wrong thing, then like that's for them to decide, because if they say that he did the wrong thing, then that's it. I don't really know what else to say to that. I play OSRS, best game ever. I love OSRS. I haven't been playing quite as often, but I always play the leagues. Or I didn't play this league. I played Leagues 2 and Leagues 4, the 2 Trailblazers. I love those. But I need to get back into OSRS so I can get my Quest Cape back. I know it's a bit early to be asking, but will the game be released on consoles? Not initially. The initial plan is just to release for Steam, and then maybe mobile. But console is something that would not be considered for quite a while. I don't think one mistake should cause a fall off, though. That's kind of what I mean about the hate side of things. Is like, so let's assume that he did make the wrong call of roaching. I don't know if he needs to be totally canceled, but in that case, I think that the criticism is the response, and that I didn't keep up with either. I don't really know how he responded to it. Have I seen Hytopia? They're building a voxel-based game. Actually, I did. They have their own blockchain. Oh, well, then I'm not going to look it up. Let's go to... I'm still looking for more sprites to get better. I should be in their game jam release tomorrow. Nice, cool. Hydrate, thank you. I forgot. I got my water bottle right here. Love my vids and my art, making my own game, and now your vids help. Awesome, I'm glad. Does Love 2D not support consoles, or would a port be too much to afford? Let's see. So Love 2D doesn't support consoles natively. And the reason why it doesn't is because, well, I'll talk about this in kind of a bit more detail. Let's pull up love2d.org. So let's see where it talks about. Where does it talk about? Mobile? Android? Oh, here it is. Okay. So there's Windows, there's Mac, there's Linux, there's Android, there's iOS, and that's it. So officially they support computers and mobile, officially. There are ways to export to web, but you have to use an external library. But porting to consoles involves the same similar process as exporting to mobile. So like over here, you see Android APK. If I wanted to export to console, I would need access to like the Nintendo APK, for example. And the problem with that is that's not public. That's all hidden behind like the Nintendo system, and I don't openly have access to that. Android and iOS, we do have access to that. So I am able to make games and publish them on Android and iOS, like no risk, no problems there. If I wanted to do console, it would be a similar process to porting a game to mobile. I would have to find the APK. I'd have to figure out the quirks and the differences and what I need to change about the code in order to interact with the APK. And it would be like that. So long story short is, even though Love doesn't natively support consoles, I suspect that the process of getting it working on consoles is kind of similar to how you get it working on mobile. And I've made mobile games in Love a few times, so I know what that process is like. And if I was given the opportunity to work on console, I would absolutely give it a shot, and I think I could pull it off. Who would use Love 2D on mobile? Oh, geez, I did. I made a... In fact, my Love 2D game is on mobile right now. Necrozone. Maybe. So I got a message that in the EU, they were going to take it down because I don't have my address listed on it. Oh, actually, it got taken down from Android. So on the mobile marketplaces, they're changing the rules a lot where you need to have like a business address listed and a phone number and all this personal information. It has to be like publicly available on the mobile apps page. And I didn't want to show any of that stuff. So I think I got removed from Android. It'd be cool to add a mini map. Maybe. The thing is, the map in my game is pretty simple. I still need to fix these icons, but it's like a grid system where right now I'm in this grid, but if I go up here, and I go back to the map, now I'm up here. So all of these maps are connected in like a grid setup, and you navigate that way. Mobile marketplaces are terrible. It does not prevent spam or scammers at all. Just make it harder for indies. It does not prevent spam or scammers at all. Just make it harder for indies. I don't know. I don't really know. I think I'd have to think about that. Yeah, most of my mobile games removed for the same reason. Yeah, so mine got removed from Android, I think, and then my iOS version, I think, is going to be removed in the EU. I could fix it. I would just need to pay for like business obfuscation. I just don't want to do that yet. I should do that, honestly. Most mobile games are scams. I don't know about that. There's 2 green pixels in the corner of the wall. In the corner of the wall. Let me see. Oh, these? Yeah, I guess those are like pieces of grass. Let's pull that up. Okay, let's pull that up. So I think the 2 pixels you're talking about are right here. And it is a little weird, I guess. Yeah, because it's meant to be like a piece of grass that's up against the cliff. And it makes a little bit more sense here because it has no barrier. But here it's like a big black barrier. I don't know. Let's... you have to buy a virtual address. Yeah, exactly. That's what I would have to do too. And it's not something I really care to do quite yet. Let's try doing this. I don't know. I don't really want to touch it. I'm kind of worried because I don't think it looks that bad. I think it looks fine. Yeah, I'm just going to keep it. It is inconsistent, though, because, look, I have negative space grass here, but then it's positive. Here, let's make it all negative space grass. I think that would be better. That looks weird. That looks too weird. It looks too weird. I can't do it. Just started watching my videos for learning game tutorial. I'm watching my tutorial for Enter Game Jam, how I need to learn. I've watched my shooting gallery C# tutorial, but now how can I add a menu for my game, and what language, engine, framework do I advise to learn and improve? Yeah, so there's a lot there, and adding a menu is like adding multiple states to the game. In my case, like I have game start. I have this game state variable. It's literally just a variable, and it starts at 0. And while it's at 0, that means we're at the main menu. So it's a literal just value that correlates. If it's at 0, we're at the main menu. And if we're at game state 1, that means we're at regular gameplay, or the pre-dungeon state, or the game over state. So there's a bunch of different game states that you can be in. And then in like your draw function, for example, you would have a big section that says, if game state, I don't know if I do that in here, game state. Yeah, here. If game state is equal to 1, then draw the HUD. Only if we're in game state 1, because game state 1 is where like the game is actually in progress. So it's a lot of stuff like this where you're verifying states. You can use state machines too if you have that option. That could work. But at the end of the day, it really is just a matter of if you're at the main menu state, then render all the main menu aspects or objects. And also, you don't need to update everything while you're at the main menu either. I think that in my update function, actually, this probably game state. Actually, this game state, all it does is changing the game time adjust if needed. So that's not very problematic. Are there enums in Lua? No, there are not enums. But what you can do is you can say test enum equals this, and then let's see. There's a few ways you could do it. You could say test enum dot apple equals 1, test enum dot orange equals 2, test enum. Yeah, exactly. And look, my AI is filling in the blanks for me. Woo! That's what GitHub Copilot was made for. So you could make an enum like this, and then you just basically use this as if it was an enum from like C#. It's the same sort of idea. Or you could also do something like this, where you say apple. Yeah, exactly. So then in this case, the test enum would be it basically assigns them to index positions, where test enum 1 is apple, and test enum 2 is banana, and 3 is cherry. So what I'm getting at is Lua is missing a lot of features from lots of other languages. It's not object oriented either. It doesn't have any of it. It doesn't really have anything. So that being said, though, it has tables. Those things that I was just working with. Tables are so flexible and they're so versatile. You can do anything with them, and because of that, it makes the whole thing a lot easier to kind of just do whatever you want. How do you guys learn Lua? It's just a matter of making a bunch of little small projects. You can just doing it a little bit over time. It is really challenging to learn when you're starting out. GitHub Copilot made me stupider as a student. I do think about that sometimes, how if I had Copilot or generative AI when I was a student, I do wonder if it would have influenced me. I would try to avoid using it, and really I don't use it most of the time. I only use it in situations like that, where it's just able to automatically assume what I'm going to write, and sometimes it's right. But the problem with GitHub Copilot is it's not right a lot of the time. Like, I would say when Copilot generates code for me, it's accurate and good probably like 75% of the time, which is nice. That's nice 75% of the time. But that means that a good quarter of the time, it's giving me junk, garbage code. And the challenging part is, how do you know when code is good or not? I'm able to look at it and kind of see what it does and instantly identify if it's good or not. But someone who's still learning would need to analyze every piece of code that's given to them. And you still have to understand it. You still have to know how to code in order to determine what's accurate and what's not accurate. I think the market needs more short and relaxing games. Yeah, I totally agree. I want my game to be like 3 or 4 hours. It just depends. 70% of the time, I'm right every time. AI proverb, totally. I feel that way about Google Gemini. Cursor is way better. LOL, the autocomplete is so much better. Oh, yeah, totally. But you need small things like spaces. Yeah. It is almost like hearing for an exam with LSP, but you have to write the uni exam on paper. I see. You play long JRPGs. That was my thing when I was in college. When I was in college, I basically treated games as a full-time job, because I was going to school and I would get home from university, and then I would just play games all night. And yes, I was also a big fan of JRPGs. I liked the story-driven text and like the Japanese anime style. Like on my shelf, I have tons of that stuff. That was my favorite genre. And now I don't quite have the patience for long games anymore, but I still have so much nostalgic memories for that. Like just last weekend, I went to St. Louis to go see the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth concert, and it was awesome. I loved it. It was so much fun. Why Lua? No particular reason. It's just that when I was trying out the different frameworks and languages, this was the one I enjoyed the most. Shake Shack or Five Guys. So we don't have Shake Shack where I'm at, so I'm gonna go with Five Guys. Even though Five Guys, like I do like Five Guys. I don't like going there though because it costs a lot of money, and I am a small person, so I can't eat very much food, and they always give me too much food. RPG burnout is real. I hit that wall. The moment I graduated from college is the moment I hit that wall. I remember it very specifically. It's like I guess that's it. But I still play new games as they come out. I played 7 Remake and 7 Rebirth, and well, I didn't like Remake, but I love Rebirth. Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth is one of my favorite games ever. I really love it. Did I go to college for computer science? Yep, I got a bachelor's degree in computer science. How much is the payment value for a playtester? Well, currently I'm not paying for playtesters. Well, I'm paying, I paid Wolf a little bit in the past, but no, at the moment I'm not paying for playtesters, but maybe towards the end of development when I need internal playtesters for the stuff that's behind a paywall, that's probably something that I will pay for. Probably not very much money, but something to cover the cost of the time, you know. I've been playing RPGs all my life. Yeah, me too. Is viable to use Python for game dev? Oh, totally. It's absolutely viable. Yeah, try out Pygame. I think there's a lot of people that talk about it. I can't put hundreds of hours into games anymore. Yeah, it just, for me, I can do that. I am perfectly happy putting hundreds of hours into a game, but it has to be really good. And my standards are at its all-time peak. My standards for games, I have the highest standards, and if a game is not meeting those standards, unfortunately I tend to give up on a game pretty quickly because I just don't have the patience. So even Rebirth, I love that game and I would love to keep playing, but I wasn't super impressed by the side content, or some of the side content, that I just kind of breezed past a lot of it. And that's the thing. If I'm not enjoying a certain aspect of the game, I'm not going to keep playing it. And playtesting should be free. Well, it depends, because playtesting is kind of involved sometimes. Like, the companies hire playtesters because a playtester is able to get very deep into it. And sometimes the level of detail that you go into testing is not very fun. Because, like, it's not all just playing games. Like, this stream, I'm just kind of playing around and it's fun, but... normally playtesting is very detailed, where you're like interacting with every individual thing. You're using every combination of every weapon versus every object and colliding with everything, talking to everyone, and just trying to trigger all kinds of weird stuff. Because the obvious stuff, I'm going to be able to find myself. Like, if there's a bug and you're playing it and you came across it unavoidably, then I probably already know about that bug. The bugs that I don't know about are the complicated, weird, tricky ones that involve some setup. And it takes some knowledge, it takes some skill to find those. Wolf is very good at finding those. Watching from the Philippines, it's 1:48 a.m. here. Dang, man. Yeah, I am sorry that the time zone isn't great for everyone. It's been challenging finding the right time, because even this time isn't great for me. I keep having to start stream late, and I'd say that's a bit problematic. I hate physics. It depends. I didn't like physics in high school, so I didn't like physics class. But physics in like a game engine, I think is kind of fun to work with, but it just depends. Playtesting is a job in every way possible. It's meticulous and detailed and thorough. Yeah, it definitely is. I completely agree. I heard about the combo you had in the Love to D Discord. Oh wow, are people talking about that? Okay, let's talk about that. I heard about the convo you had in the Love to D Discord regarding Windfield, so I want to ask about what will you do with the Windfield tutorial we have up? Will you replace or start new tutorials, or what exactly? Yeah, that's a good question. And so I am totally sympathetic to everyone in that situation. So the conversation that happened in the Love to D server yesterday was I was pinged and they were talking about my video playlist. So I'll go ahead and pull it up just so everyone has context. So on my YouTube channel, I have this playlist for getting started with Love to D, and it's a pretty good playlist. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, here we go. So this is the playlist I'm talking about, and I think this, in general, this playlist of videos is very good for beginners. just because it's pretty up to date and the videos are short and quick and easy, and I think that they get the point across really nicely. But there is one video in here that's controversial. It's this one, Love2D Physics Windfield, and understandably so. So there's some problems with Windfield. So what Windfield is Windfield is a open source file on GitHub that was made like 8 years ago or something like that. And all it does is you install the file to your project, and it makes the physics module in Love2D a little bit easier to work with. So I guess I can also show Love Physics tutorial, because there's so Love Physics by itself is a little bit complicated because every physics object has, I'll try and zoom in, it has a body, it has a shape, and it has a fixture. And in my opinion, having all of those separated is a little bit complicated. And I've noticed that, like, when I was trying to learn physics as a newcomer, I personally found this concept of separating a physics object into its different components a little bit confusing. And something that Windfield does, Physics Windfield, is it combines all three of these things into one single entity, just called a collider. And I personally find working with colliders to be very, very easy. I like, because that's what I use in Moonshire. My game uses Windfield, and it consolidates these three things into one single entity, and all of these associated functions just get mixed into this one single entity. And I think that it's a lot easier to understand. I think it's a lot easier to learn, and it's a lot easier to work with. And so personally, I'm a big fan of Windfield because of that. But there are some absolutely valid concerns about Windfield. So the biggest concern about Windfield is that Windfield is no longer supported by its developer. So if I go to github.com and I find Windfield, here we go. So this is the page for Windfield. It's very simple, but you can see that this repository has been archived since 2021. And the files themselves haven't been updated. It's been 7 years. So this repo, this code, has long been abandoned. And reasonably so. The folks on the Love2D Discord were saying we probably shouldn't be using this anymore. And I totally sympathize with that. Is that I'm technically trying to encourage people to use this file when it's no longer receiving support anymore. And I think that's the biggest reason that they should be arguing, is that since this isn't receiving support, time to fork. Exactly. That was kind of my response to that concern, is that since I'm actively using Windfield, if there are any problems with Windfield, I would need to fix it because I use it. If Windfield suddenly breaks in a later version of Love2D, I would need to go into Windfield and fix it here, and then I could post an update somewhere. So the concern about support, I think that I can handle that. I think that the concern about support is handled just because I would be able to handle any issues that come up. Then there's another concern, which is also valid. It's that I shouldn't be encouraging people to use a wrapper. I shouldn't be encouraging people to use Windfield when ideally everyone just uses this. Ideally, it would be better if there was a standardized version of all of this. If everyone just used this tutorial, if everyone just used body, shape, and fixture, if everyone agreed to use the exact same thing, that would make support a lot easier, because when people have questions, they go to the Love2D Discord server and they're asking questions about physics. And if they're using Windfield, this is not a standard solution. So if people are asking physics and they're using Windfield, it can cause problems in their bug searching, because the people that are helping them are more familiar with this setup and they're less familiar with this setup. And because of that, that discrepancy is also something that is worth bringing into question. So there are absolutely pros and cons of... Can I believe that Undertale released 9 years ago? That is kind of crazy. It's going to be 10 years this year. So there's lots of pros and cons to Windfield. I totally understand both sides of this discussion. Is GitHub good? Oh my gosh, yes it is. I use GitHub every single day. It is so good. So that's the conflict with Windfield, and there is one other concern that the people on the Discord server were bringing up, and that's the integrity of this person. According to them, this guy who originally wrote this code apparently is a bad person. I don't know what that means. They didn't really clarify, but according to them, this guy's no good. But even in my opinion, like, this was 7 years ago. This code hasn't been touched. It's archived and abandoned by the owner. I don't think that the integrity of this person matters. All that matters is the quality of the code. And there's alternatives to Windfield too. There's something like Breezefield. Oh, Allfather, hi, welcome in. There's another option called Breezefield, and Breezefield is good too. It's just slightly not the same because Windfield has BSG rectangle colliders. I love these. I use BSG rectangles for everything. If we look at my game, if I turn on collisions, BSG rectangle is just an octagon. So look, the player is an octagon. Let's see, what else is an octagon? I know that there's lots of octagons. This enemy is an octagon, and this NPC is an octagon. And like, there's probably ways for me to do this in any of the other options. There definitely is. But what I'm getting at is, since I personally find Windfield to be the most convenient way to work with physics, I still like recommending it. And that's the point of contention. That's kind of that was the point of contention in the Discord server, is that it's a question: should I be sharing this file with people? Because I truly believe, genuinely believe that this file is the best way to work with physics for love. But like I said, there's pros and cons to it. And they don't agree with that. Like I said, it won't be supported in later Love2D versions. And yes, you can edit to fix stuff for people. Yeah, so yeah, there's pros and cons. Love 12, according to them, will break this, and it would need an updated version in order for it to work. So what about the tutorials? Well, the thing is, if Love 12 is going to break Windfield, then any tutorials are going to be broken anyway. So let's say that I went back and I re-recorded this video, and I did it using this physics system. Let's say I redid it entirely, and now we're using the standard system. Well, once Love 12 comes out, this is no longer going to be the same. They're changing it. They're changing it so that fixtures don't need to be worked with anymore. So in that case, I would spend all this time making a video, Love 12 comes out, and then I need to make another video to explain that system too, because they said they're changing it. So I'm definitely not going to be changing this video until this physics system is easier to work with, because that's my main concern. This video is titled Love2D Physics in Under 10 Minutes. Part of why that's possible is because Windfield does this wrapping, and it makes a lot of things so much simpler, where I don't need to explain a bunch of individual details like what a body is, what a shape is, what a fixture is. All you need to care about is this is a collider and it has physics to it, and that's my argument on this subject. But I'm trying to be as respectful as humanly possible, because I love Love2D and I respect the devs, and their opinion on this subject matters a lot. If they really don't want me using Windfield, I'm considerate of that. I want to be open to what they're doing and what they want, like, for their community. I really am patient. I really am understanding. But I hope that they're understanding of me as well, where if this is the best solution, I'm going to keep recommending it until there's a better solution. And I'm sorry, Breezefield just isn't there because it doesn't have the BSG rectangle collider, so it's an inferior version for me. Rule 1 of game dev, stick with the current version until the game is done. Just upgrade it if you must. And Git. Yeah, I do use Git. I love Git. I use Git for everything, and it's the best. So yeah, that was my discussion about Windfield. If anyone's listening that was in the server or that was a part of that discussion, I'm very sorry for stirring up drama. That was not my intention. I hope that we can discuss this more in the future, because really, I think this is a good topic. We all want the same thing. We all want people to be using Love2D's physics. It's just, the question is, do we use this file that makes it much more streamlined? Or do we insist on using this version that's more standard? Do we go standard or simple? And that's the main discussion here, I guess. How much, Alkade? I'm doing pretty good. Thank you for asking. Again, I titled the stream pixel art. Oh yeah, let's see. I wanted to see if the bell would look better without the top of it. If I go here, so there's like a black bar at the top. I'm wondering if it'll look better if I remove that. I actually don't think this is gonna look good, but I'm gonna try it anyway. Hydrate, thank you. Okay, Luis says advice on which language. Genuinely, and I get this question a lot because it is hard to decide on a language or a framework. I understand the challenge with that, but genuinely, they all can be used to make good games. You mentioned Java. You can use Java. You can use libgdx and make Java games. It is perfectly fine. There's no wrong answers. Sure, you could say C# is the best one, because if you have C#, you can do Unity or Monogame or one of the other ones. So C# is pretty popular. Or I'm using Lua. Lua is in Love2D and it's in Roblox, some other scripting stuff. So it really doesn't matter that much. And the other thing is that once you know one language, it's pretty easy to pick up another language. So if you know Java, it's very easy for you to switch to C#, let me tell you that. Like, Microsoft made C# just because Java was really close to being perfect, and C# just makes it a little less quirky. It's basically the same language. And once you know C#, you have all the fundamentals in place. You could pick up Python in no time. Lua is easier than all the above. So it's just a matter of practice and trying them out. And there's no wrong answers. People can use Windfield if it's easier abstraction. Then they can jump down one abstraction level and look at Windfield source code if they want to know the API for love collision calls. That's kind of the way that I see it too. It's a similar to discussion like what we're talking about with programming languages. So let's say I was trying to decide what programming language someone should learn first. And this is a discussion I actually had with someone at my first job. So let's say I knew no programming languages and I wanted to learn programming. There's two avenues to go. You could say it's best to learn C++ first, because C++ has all the fundamentals. It forces you to get into the nitty-gritty and understand what data types are. You have to understand references and pointers. You have to understand garbage collection, and there's all these really detailed quirks that you need to understand with C++. And once you know all of those, you will know all of the fundamentals of pretty much all languages, because C++ has all this stuff. Basically, other languages just make it easier. So if you switch from C++ to Python, you might be shocked that you don't have to clarify each variable's data type. You can just put whatever data you want in any variable. Same with Love2D. I have a whole bunch of, look, I say local input name, and I just make it into a string. I didn't need to say that this is a string. It's just Lua handles the data typing for me. It's all automatic. Are you and Gugus friends? Yeah, I'd say so. We talked on Discord a few times, and we chat on each other's streams and videos and stuff. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, data type. So the argument is, do you learn C++ first, since it's the hardest language, and mastering C++ would make you capable at any language? Because that's one avenue to go. The other avenue to go is to choose the easiest language. Choose something like Scratch or Lua or Python. Like, those aren't easy languages, but those are easier. So Python, you don't have to worry about data types. You don't have to worry about references or pointers, or it handles a lot of this stuff for you. So the barrier to entry is lower. And that's what my whole point is. I want to make the barrier to entry as low as humanly possible, because I remember what it was like when I was starting out and how difficult everything was, and how I would just get overwhelmed and I couldn't figure it out. And that's exactly how I felt when I was following this physics tutorial. I was looking at this and I'm like, oh my god, what the heck does all of this mean? And I compare it to like Windfield, and Windfield looks like this. It's so easy. It's like, here's a box, and that's it. Box equals new rectangle collider. This one single line does everything that all of this stuff here does. And I like that simplicity. I think that the approachableness, if that's a word, makes Windfield the superior version of working with physics. But, you know, superior is debatable, because you could say that the standard version is superior because that's what everyone else uses. Obviously, up for debate. Lua is nice. It's easy to embed. I think so too. It's easy. It's really lightweight and easy to work with. Why are there no compound assignments in Lua? It's so annoying. I had to customize snippets. Compound assignments. When you say compound assignments, does that mean something like local x or tx ty equals 1 and 2? Is that what you're talking about? Because this does work. I can't think of what else you're referring to. Let's see. Godot or Unity for beginner pixel art game development? They're both perfectly fine. There's no wrong answer there. I would say download both of them and see which one you like more. Assignment operators like plus equals. Oh, I'm with you. I wish, like value plus equals 1. Oh, or value plus plus. Oh, I miss that so much from C++. Yeah, I do wish Lua had that. I do miss those little shortcuts. That was nice. Have I heard of Book of Sophia on Steam? No, I have not. Let's look it up. Roblox Lua has that. Yeah, that makes sense. How do you handle the tiny gaps when the camera goes decimal values? Oh, my favorite topic. My favorite topic. Let's show it. Let's show it. So, because you noticed that when I was in this room, you can see it. You can see it. Someone in the chat has very, very good eyes, and they could see it. It's hard to see though. In fact, I'm having trouble seeing it. I really want to see if I can get the camera to stop on it. So if you look very closely at the tiles in the background, there are these lines between the tiles that pop up. Who is Kaiserol? That's my old screen name. That's my Steam screen name. So you can kind of see, you can see it pop in a little bit right here. I really want to, I would love to get it to stop. Come on. You can see it pop in for a moment, but I'll show you how to fix this in a second. Oh, I would love if I could pause right perfectly on it. So close. Maybe you guys could see it, but it's so tiny, it's so small to see. It's a literal 1 pixel gap between the tiles. And that happens because, like the person in the chat said, it's a decimal value. And How can I best explain this? I know when I have way more drastic gaps in my games, it makes me go crazy. Oh yeah, trust me, I've been there. That's a problem. This is a problem I've worked with for ever. I've always had to deal with this, and I only learned probably a few years ago how to fix it. So, check this out. This is how you fix it. You add a 1 pixel buffer around everything. So this is a selection of 4 different tiles. But when there is, you get that like gap pop in whenever you don't have this buffer. So what's happening is the game is rendering this tile right here. The game is rendering this tile, but due to like decimal place pixel movement, it very slightly renders outside of the image. It renders just this section a tiny, tiny bit. So you get this weird empty space, and that's why those pop-ins happen. But if all you do is put in a little pixel gap around the whole thing, then when it renders this line here, it's going to be the same color as the main tile, and you won't see the pop-in. And if I go to, I think it's water. Oh, here, yeah, look. It's doing that in the jail because these tiles don't have that buffer. And once I put this buffer in, it'll be fixed. This is all I have to do. What application is that? So this is Sprite, and this is tiled. I'm trying to think of what else I was showing a second ago. 16 by 16 tiles, so just make it one bigger. Yeah, that's all we're doing. It is so the tiles look like this. There's gaps between them. So like this section, there's gaps between all these tiles because I always make sure that these in between tiles are used just for this extra like buffer space. And that's the trick to fixing it. That fixes it 100% of the time. Or like this one, look, I bet that I would be getting the pop in right here because I forgot to put a strip on the bottom. Or same over here, look at this. This one's a little bit weird. This one has 2. Kadir, hello, hi, welcome in. How much money does it really take to make an indie game? Pay for music, sound effects, and animations? It depends. So if you're coding everything yourself, that's probably the most expensive cost. So if you're developing it yourself, that's huge. But it just depends because I do a lot of the pixel art myself, but I also do pay for a lot of it too. All I can say is that for my game so far, I've probably spent like $5,000 in grand total. If we add up all the assets I've bought, all of the work I've commissioned, all the artists I've commissioned, the software I bought, the licenses I bought, the Steam fee, the Apple fee. So there are a lot of fees and costs that go into developing a game, but I wouldn't say it was particularly expensive. I mean, $5,000 is a lot of money, don't get me wrong, but that is something that you can save up for. Can I use Joule and gems in my... Yeah, of course. I wouldn't say that my Joule system is particularly unique or cool. Bro, after 2 months of learning Lua, I learned nothing, and yesterday I watched your video and got way better. Awesome! Wow, cool. That's a huge compliment. Thank you. Your average cost also goes down over time. Yeah, you're right. How does the gaps for the middle tiles like dirt? Well, so here's the thing. Like this one, the middle tile. It does have a gap. It does have that strip. It's just these pixels here. This is acting as the gap. But, so, it's bleeding over into these surrounding pixels. But since these surrounding pixels are the same colors as the main tile, you don't notice the bleed in. you would only notice it on these outer tiles because these outer tiles are up against some transparent tiles. That's what it is when your tile is directly adjacent, like this tile is directly adjacent to a transparent tile, that's when you need to worry about it. But this tile is not adjacent to any transparent tiles, so it's not a problem that needs to be a concern. I've been having so much problems with pixel art. I mean, I still have problems with pixel art. The only way to learn is just to do it all the time. And even still, I don't do all the pixel art myself. I buy a lot of asset packs, and I also commission artists to help out. But I do a lot of pixel art myself, and I do a lot of editing. Editing the pixel art is my main deal. It's rare that I start from scratch on pixel art these days. Normally, I start from either what an artist creates for me or some asset or open source something or other. Is as unique and cool as the Hollow Knight charm system. Yeah, it's basically the Hollow Knight charm system. But by the way, the gem and jewel system is going to change a little bit. So I changed it in one video. I can't remember what it was, where you get the gems from gargoyles, and then I'm going to have it so that you can upgrade the gems into jewelry with gold. Wouldn't it be 18 by 18, not 17 by 17? Well, so the thing is, you don't need to... All the tiles are still 16 by 16. Like, you can see the blue grid. All these tiles, all of this is 16 by 16. So you're not changing the dimensions of the tiles. The tiles still stay exactly 16 by 16. But in the surrounding tiles, so really you can think of it as every given tile is the main center tile, but I also need to be cautious about what tiles are surrounding it, because all of these tiles might get bled into a tiny bit, and that's why you add the gap. Like this one down here, where was that? This one. This tile right here, like all of the surrounding tiles are filled in, so I don't need to worry about that like bleeding issue. But this one up here, it has transparent gap right here and here and here, so I do need to worry about it for this. So that's what it comes down to. The dimensions of the tiles does not change. All I'm worrying about is what are the tiles that are like parallel next to it. Is Roblox Studio a good starter point? You tried Unreal Engine's too hard? Well, I mean, Unreal Engine's pretty intense. Try something like Game Maker. I think Game Maker is a good middle ground between Unreal and Roblox. But Roblox is fine. You can still make games with Roblox. My advice is always just to do whatever you want to work with. I just wanted to ask, but my Moonshire demo won't work on Mac. Yeah, I know. It's probably an Intel Mac. I still have to fix that. I'm so sorry about that. But yes, that's a known bug, and I will be working on that JPenguin. Thanks for letting me know, though. I want to have that fixed for when this updated demo version comes out, because I'm with you. It sucks that some people just can't play it. Okay, let's go back to... I think I'm going to go back to the main menu, actually. Where does the gap come into play? In tiled or Love 2D? Like, do you make another layer for the bleeding pixels? That is something that you could do. So, that is something you could do. So, well, no, not exactly. No, you don't need a layer for the bleeding pixels. So, the bleeding pixels come into play when the tiles are rendered. So, this is something that happens in Love 2D. So, simple tiled implementation. This file is what renders everything, and the problem is just that sometimes there's subpixels. Sometimes when you render one pixel, let's pull up Paint again. Paint. So if I have a rectangle, how do you make a... Okay, there we go. Shift. So here's one tile. And then my game needs to render another tile immediately right next to it. And it's right next to it. And then ideally, in the real world, like these would be 100% like up against each other. So for tile, do you make it 17 by 17? No, you like all these tiles are still 16 by 16. This gap thing, It's just there for the renderer. So this is not something you need to think about at all. This is just happening in the engine. You don't change the dimensions of anything. This is still 16 by 16. And the reason the gap shows up is that when the renderer goes to render this tile, and then it goes to render this tile next to it, when there's sub-pixel, like uber precise, like 0.001 pixel differences, sometimes the math gets off very slightly, and it causes a gap in the rendering to bleed through. But instead of showing transparent space, because the gap that it's showing, it's rendering part of this tile right here. So if I didn't have this gap right here, it's basically just rendering this tile a little bit. But if this tile has this green strip here, it won't show this little gap. It'll be a green strip which connects, it bridges the gap basically. That's a better way to think of it. So I hate Paint. I hate Paint. I hate Paint. I hate Paint because it doesn't behave like every other Windows program. I hate Paint so much. You can think of it as every tile has a potential gap between the tiles, and this is unavoidable. This is unavoidable to avoid this potential tiny gap. But the way to that you can hide the gap is this strip. This strip will fill in that space, because if it was trying to fill it in with nothing, then there's just going to be empty space in here. But if it tries to fill it in with the same color as the main like section, well, then it's going to be filled in completely, and you're not going to see the gap. You love Paint. I love Paint. I like certain aspects of Paint, but Paint drives me crazy because when you draw something, it keeps it selected, and then when I go up here to the colors, it changes the color of the thing I selected. I hate that. And then I also hate that when I use middle click drag, there is no middle click option. Middle click is just left click. There's no difference between middle click and left click. It does the exact same thing. That is so stupid. Middle click is supposed to drag the whole canvas in most other art programs, but for some reason in Paint, middle click is left click. That's so annoying. What's the story behind Moonshire? Just that the moon's gonna blow up and you need to stop it. Same with Tiled, yeah, I get it. Yeah, I shouldn't be saying I hate Paint, but the quirks make me so mad sometimes. I've raged on stream before, especially when I do this. I draw a shape, and then I go to select the color of the next shape I'm gonna draw. I'm like, okay, this line's gonna be black, but the next line is gonna be blue. So I go up here and I select blue, and it's like, oh shoot, it changed the color of my old line. Okay, I guess I'm gonna click black. But now if I want to, I have to draw the line first and then select the color? That's weird. That is so weird. So strange. So the moon exploding is real. I mean, it's like a vision, I think, is what it's gonna be. What's the plan for publishing? It'll just be published through Steam, and I'm gonna be self-publishing it. Moon is exploding, no biggie. Thanks for answering the question. Good job on the game so far. Yeah, thanks. Thanks for asking the question. Thanks for being here. I think that this file, I can fight these. What's better for screens and games? Customly resizable or just full screen or small screen? Well, mine's fully resizable. And that's nice for like the stream because I can make it fill in my space exactly. Or I could do full screen, but full screen on my monitor is like very big. It's very wide, so it takes up too much space, but it is fully customizable, and I can make it like weird dimensions too. I could make it like tiny like this. I think that this aspect of the game, how it's fully resizable, one of my most proud aspects, because I think it's rare to find a game able to do this with this level of like not breaking. It's kind of hard to play like this, though. When will I end stream? Probably in half an hour. You love my art so much? Thank you. Appreciate that. Any tips for... Let's see. Any tips for... The coding part. Yeah, the coding part is difficult. The only advice I have is start super small. Start with like Pong. Because even coding Pong, that's the thing is that people don't get. Coding Pong is hard. Something like Pong is difficult to make when you don't know what you're doing. It's the same as any skill. The very first thing that you try with that skill, like painting or learning guitar, like start with it very easy and just work up over time, because the hard part with game development is that it's a multifaceted hobby. You have to be good at art, you have to be good at coding, you have to be good at sound and design and level design and whatever else is involved with that process. Have I played Lisa? No, but I watched a lot of videos on it, especially the donkey video. I love that video a lot. What's the right character's name? His name's Lua. Unofficially named Lua. I don't want to officially name him Lua just because Lua is the name of a programming language. But his name's Lua just because people, when the game, long story. It's a long story why the character's named Lua, but obviously it's a reference to the programming language. People use the skip the basics and go for the big stuff, and that's tempting, obviously, right? Like, people don't want to make Pong. People want to make cool, complex, fun RPGs. People don't like playing Mary Had a Little Lamb on guitar. That's not very fun. People want to play Cliffs of Dover, and I get that. But you have to put up with the boring stuff in order to make it work. That's just part of the deal. Is Love2D the only engine using Lua? Probably not. And you can use Lua in other engines too. And in fact, there's lots of like big name games that have used Lua. World of Warcraft has Lua. Dark Souls had Lua. Roblox uses Lua. You can use Lua to make Roblox games. That's a big one. I actually think Lua is a good name, but there might be copyright issues. Yeah, that's why I say it's unofficial. Like, if you ever ask me, I'm not gonna say his name's Lua. His name's not Lua. What are you talking about? It's not Lua. That's just what people call him. I didn't name him that. How can I make art like mine? Well, the thing is, like, a lot of my art, it starts with someone else's. A lot of my art comes from like an asset pack, and then I edit it from there. So I'd say that's a good first step, is to kind of leverage asset packs or free open source sprites and kind of use it as just like as a starting point. Still make it your own unique thing. But if you're able to start with something else that someone else made, I think that's okay. As long as you have permission, right? How much were you inspired by Dark Souls? Believe it or not, I've actually never played Dark Souls in its entirety. I started it multiple times, and in fact, I have 2 copies of it on my shelf behind me, but I never completed it. The only Souls game that I fully beat was Elden Ring. And I love Elden Ring. Elden Ring was a huge inspiration. I love Elden Ring so much. How did I come up with the name Chalcade? Chalcade is it's like a portmanteau of 2 different words. The Chala comes from like a personal reference, but then Cade is like arcade. Add a skill tree system. So I think the gems are kind of like my game's version of that, because you can choose which gems you want to pick. And like you can choose gems that are more health based or more damage based or more speed based. So I think that that's kind of its own like simple system. It looks really good. Looking forward to checking it out. Awesome. Thank you, Cinnabread. That's a good name, by the way. Do you think you would port this to the Switch? I would love to port this to Switch. Well, Switch 2. But yes. What's my name? My name's Kyle. How do you make controller support nice and seamless? Ooh, that is very challenging, because my game does have controller support, and I'll go ahead and show it. Okay, sorry about that. I had to grab my controller because it was on my desk. Okay, let me get back into position. So, I got my controller. It's just a Switch controller. And the game does check. So as soon as I press A, it does switch back, which is awesome. it does automatically detect the last input. But right now, if I try to use my keyboard, like it's not reading my inputs right now because it knows I'm in controller mode. And this is something that's a little tricky because, like, I can't pause the game with the keyboard anymore. So if I wanted to switch away from controller, you have to use the controller to do that. There's probably a better way to do this, but yeah, you can change it here, and you go to this and settings, control scheme controller, and you get to, it's busted. Yeah, it's busted. I need to fix my controller settings. Yeah, that's really weird. Yeah, that's messed up. But actually playing the game it worked great. I love playing the game with controller. I think it works awesome. What feature / code am I most proud of? Let's think. What would that be? Probably the screen being able to switch sizes, but let me think of a better idea. Maybe the player customization with all of the different colors. See, now the game's messed up because oh, my keyboard died. My keyboard died. It's actually dead. That's by coincidence. That's so funny. I'm like, why is the game not working? And it's because my keyboard's dead. Okay. I guess I can plug my keyboard in with this. Maybe not. Do you guys remember when every electronic had its own charger before USB-C? Okay. Those were dark times. Okay, are we back? We are. Okay, we are back. I don't even know what I was doing. This is why games ask you to press a button or key. Yeah, and let's see what. I can't test it now because I had to plug my keyboard in. When does progression stop at the stage of development? When does progression stop at this stage of development? I'm not sure what you mean by progression, but the game does progress a little bit every day, but it's slow. I talked about in my recent video about how slow everything is now, and I wish there was a better way to deal with that, but I struggle a lot with it. Let's go up to Snow Cliff. Ow. Oh, game story progression. I mean, story is gonna come last. I am thinking about the story constantly. I am always thinking about what I want to do with the story and how I want to, like, the order of events. But the story is going to serve the game, and the game is still changing. So I'm still changing mechanics, I'm still changing the order of what happens, and that's more important. The story is going to serve the game, not the other way around. So like, I'm thinking about all of these aspects of the story and what's going to happen, but none of it is final, and it's all being changed constantly as the game itself changes. Do I use Git? Do I have private remote repository? Yes. The Moonshire repo is a GitHub repo that I think I can just show it. My repos. Moonshire. Yeah, so this is the repo for Moonshire, but yeah, it's private. It's just me working on it. But we're approaching 2,000 commits. We're at 1,988. Whoa. That's so exciting. Almost at 2,000. Wow. Very, very cool. I like to make a separate file for input controls for small projects. Also, when I have controller in a game, I make... Yeah, and that is what I do. It feels so out of control. Any steps for tweaking? So the control input file, like you were saying, that is something that I do, and I'll show that real quick. In the game files, there is a file called control schemes. It's very small. I can't make it any bigger. I'm sorry. But let me open up the file. And this is just a config file for every different configuration. So this is the keyboard mouse configuration, and it has all of the different controls. So there's left, right, up, down. And then there's also dodge, there's attack, and pause. So you have all of the potential buttons that you can use while you're in the keyboard mouse state. And similarly, there's keyboard only state, there's the controller state, and then there's also a custom state where like the user can insert whatever values they want. How do you become a full-time game dev? It's hard because game dev doesn't make me any money. So I became full-time game dev just from saving up a lot, and now I live very modestly. And yeah, once this game releases, I hope it will bring in some money, but it's okay if it doesn't bring in that much. Most of my money comes from my Udemy courses. Well, even that's not very. It's less than $1,000 a month. So I'm living very modestly right now, mostly off of savings. It's not a very lucrative career path, but it is what I love to do. And I do think that once Moonshire is done and ready, I will be able to sell it for money. So I'm not very worried about that stuff. Do you think there will be more tutorials in the future with Lua and Love2D? Yeah, I definitely think so, because it's still evolving and changing. And the other thing is I have a bunch of code from this game that I could open source and make tutorials on how to use it. That's something that I would love to do. Keeping the debug menu for final release? Yeah, but I'll probably hide it more. That's why more modular than my input file. Yeah, I made sure to keep it super, super modular because I knew that eventually people were going to want to go into the settings and then to controls and then keyboard mouse edit keybind. So I have this whole edit keybinds menu where, like, if I want to change the attack button to also be backspace, whoops, to also be backspace, then there we go. How do you self-motivate? I mean, I have a lot of trouble with that. Doing it alone without end. The Discord server helps me a lot. I'm very fortunate and thankful that the people on Discord are supportive and they give me motivation, they give me advice, and like you guys being here for stream is a huge help. Thank you all for being here. That does help me a lot. But as far as the motivation aspect, think less motivation and think more discipline. Because game development is a skill that takes years and years to develop. So that means you're going to have to spend years and years doing kind of mundane, boring stuff. Like spend a year making small little games. Spend 1 month making Space Invaders. And it might actually take you 3 months because making a game is really tough. So it's just grinding through the unfortunate hard phase where you're not very good at it. It's the same as when you're learning an instrument. It's really not fun to play an instrument that you're bad at, but once you're good at the instrument, it's a lot of fun, and then you can play complicated stuff. It's hard to get all the keyboard icons. Yeah, how did I do that? I think these are an open source pack of icons. I did not make all these. Yeah, these are from an open source pack. What software do I use to make videos? I use Camtasia. Yeah. What are you planning to do after this game? I want to make something in 3D. I want to make a 3D game after this. So I'll probably try out Godot or Unreal or Unity or something like that. Just tried the old It's Moonshire and it still holds up. Cool. I think the fundamentals of it are pretty good. And the Legend of Lua GitHub repo, there's a game on my GitHub called Legend of Lua. It's an open source version of this game. And it's from a long time ago, but I think that holds up great. Does Lua/Love have classes? Not exactly, but with tables, you can emulate classes. So if I go up to, like, enemies, all my enemies are set up like that. Enemies and stats. So enemy.lua is a general enemy. And all of these enemy files over here, there's a lot of them. All of the stuff is code that applies to every single enemy. But the spawn enemy function also accepts a class, so like the class of enemy. So is it a slime or a lizard or whatever? And you choose the class, and then it's going to figure out what the class details are, and then finally it's going to load the appropriate class file into this enemy object. And the class file is just a separate stats file. So for example, the slime, I can go into slime.lua, and all of this stuff is class configuration specifically for slimes. It still has all the exact same enemy code, but this file defines all of the animations for slimes, what kind of like entrance they have, their dimensions, what shadow they use, and then things like their health or their speed. So this setup where it's modular with the stats files, it's not classes. It's different than object-oriented programming, but it is similar. It achieves the same goal. And that's why, like, I still think Lua is great for game development, even though it's not object-oriented. You can still do basically all the same stuff. I would recommend Unreal, no personal bias in any way, shape, or form. Sounds a little biased, but Unreal seems awesome. Like, I legitimately want to try it out just because there's so many impressive projects that I've seen with it. And I would love to see how far I could take a project like that in Unreal, because when it comes to 3D games, I do think Unreal is like peak in terms of quality, but it is also big. And one thing I like about Love 2D is that it's open source. Godot is open source. That's tempting. That's tempting. You found how to cheese any enemy or boss in Moonshire? I mean, yeah, there's a bunch of exploits at the moment. There's definitely, yeah. Yeah, you can cheat. True. You can go into the save files and change your values. I hear it's overkill for solo devs. Yeah, probably. It depends. If you're able to put a lot of effort in, have high quality assets. Because that's the thing, Unreal isn't that useful unless you have high quality assets. And a solo dev typically can't get a hold of high quality assets unless they like buy a bunch of asset packs and stuff. So, but yeah, you think Unreal, you tend to think big team with like high quality 3D artists. I'd love to use libgdx, but there are only really old tutorials online. How to learn and use it. I would recommend finding their community, finding their forums, finding their Discord server, because if it's anything like Love 2D, they are very eager to get people using their framework. They want people to use libgdx, and they will be happy to point you in the right direction. But it is frustrating when tutorials are outdated like that. I do feel your pain. Will I make this into an RPG or a roguelike? I think that'd be very cool. And one thing that I'm thinking about is like a post-game, like maybe like a post-release free DLC like what Hollow Knight did. So Hollow Knight did the boss rush DLC. I think it would be a lot of fun for me to do some kind of like roguelike DLC where it like you have custom values for your health and armor, and your attacks do different damage values, or they can apply different debuffs, or they have different ranges or different abilities. I think that'd be really cool. Have I tried Mindwave? I have not heard of that. How do I make efficient level panel switching in the game? Oh, yeah, you mean like the grid system. So my maps in my game, I'm sorry it's so small. Let me see if I can make it bigger. So the maps in my game are labeled like B5, C1, C2, C3, C4, C5, D1. Oh, actually, these are old ones. Yeah, actually, I guess this is the same thing. But it's B5, C4, D2. That is set up and named in a grid system like this. If I go to the map, the row is a letter and the column is a number. So this cell that I'm at over here is row A, B, C, D, number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is cell D5, and if I go into tiled and I go to map D5, here we are. Here we are, D5. So that's how I name my files and keep them organized. I think Unity is dead. I don't think Unity is dead. I think that they had a bit of a PR disaster in the past year or so. but I don't think that the engine is dead. I think Unity is still one of the top performers and one of the best engines out there. But I'm with you. It is frustrating that their business side of things got a little bit weird for a while. Rook to d4 checkmate, basically. Do any of you code in Python? I did a lot of Python when I was working. When I was working at Microsoft, I used some Python, and one of my jobs out of college, I used Python too. So every world will have 20 rooms. Yep, exactly. Is that it's the plan is that there's a surface level of maps. There's the underground series of maps, which after this fight, I'll go down this elevator and show you. And then there's going to be a series of map in the sky. So it's a lot like Tears of the Kingdom, actually, where it's 3 different sections of maps that have different vibes. I need to make this fire a little bit better. It gets really buggy. We're kind of learning about Love 12, reworking the physics. When was that? That was like a half an hour in, I think. And Torch is OP. I mean, there's a lot of... The Boomerang, I think, is the most OP. So the idea is, now that I went down that elevator, I went down underground, and now I'm in this underground series of maps. Cell D5, I went down 1 level, but I'm still in cell D5. And if I go back up the elevator, I'll be on cell D5, but on the surface. A special level that's off-grid. Yeah, a secret Easter egg level could be fun. If I want to remake this game using Legend of Lua assets, is it better to use Unity or Godot? There's no right answer. They're both fine. Like, Unity and Godot are both good. The pro of Godot is that it's open source, and the pro of Unity is that it's bigger and more historical. Excuse me, I'm sorry about that. Is that it's a bigger and more long-standing engine with more learning resources and like the asset store and the forum. So there's a lot of places to go with Unity. So they're both fine. There's no wrong answer. But I think that when I start learning 3D, I'm going to use Godot because I like open source. But there's no wrong answer. Also, I'm noticing that this gap here, look, is that the gap here is smaller. It widens. Look at that. It widens. I need to fix that. So here, I need to make this one wall smaller, like this. Okay, let's fix that. Ooh, why did the wall not come back? Did I forget to put the wall up? Oh, I think I put it in the wrong layer. Yeah, I did. I put it in the wrong layer. Okay, let's try that. I don't need to reset. Okay, there we go. That's one of those minor issues, because whenever I redesign one map, which happens constantly, I'm always redesigning these dumb maps. So I must have redesigned C5, and when I changed the size of this little hallway over here, I didn't do the same thing for D5. What free website do you recommend for starting pixel art? I mean, you can do pixel art in any art software. You could do it in MS Paint if you wanted to, or Photoshop, or I use Sprite. There's a free version of Sprite called LibreSprite that you could also use. Have I heard of Snow Hornet? He's super skilled in game dev, and he's a devlog channel. Well, cool. Good for him. No, I have not heard of that. What is tentative release date for the game? I would love to have it out this year, but I don't know. You think Toby Fox used MS Paint for Undertale? I think I heard that too. Especially for, like, the character portraits, I think he did. I'm thinking specifically about Burger Pants. I love Toby's art. It's so funny. Because he, like, drew Burger Pants on paper, and then he one-to-one recreated it, I think, in MS Paint. And it looks so weird and so silly, but it works so well. Like, his art is so good. I noticed with Windfield there is not a lot of control, especially with platformers. Need tips. Not a lot of control. What do you mean by that? Because I think it has enough control. If there's a specific thing you're referring to, I don't know what you mean by control. What are we talking about? I don't remember, actually. I keep changing directions, like, constantly. I think I fixed this map thing, and then I got sidetracked again. Super slippery physics. Oh, well, you can change the friction of anything. So, you said super slippery physics. So, my game has physics too, by the way. I can make my player slippery. Player main. I think this is damping. So check this out. The player has a base damping. Damping is the word you're looking for, by the way. You can change the damping of your physics bodies or fixtures. I can't remember which it is. And this determines how much friction it has. So if I turn this 12 lower, so right now in my game, if I walk around and I stop, the player slightly slides to a stop. Very slightly slides. But if I change this base damping to like 3, or actually probably like 2, something really small, the player is going to slip slide around. Look at that. He also moves a little bit faster, I think, because there's less resistance to the floor. So if I entered an area, like if I went to make an icy, slippery area, I could just change this. Like, it feels like I'm on ice right now, really. Should I use a framework or an engine? There's no right answer. I would try out both of them. I would try out an engine and a framework and see which sounds better or feels better. What do I think about platformers where you chain different moves to contain momentum, like pizza? I love that sort of stuff. That's what I wanted my bird game to be like, where you would... I wanted it to be a game where you bounced off of enemies' heads and, like, try to chain it together. I think that is so satisfying. Can you tweak the damping for the area? Yeah, I could. I think there are places where I do this, where I do that. Oh yeah, because look at this. I changed the damping gets manually changed when you are swimming. So I don't have this. I need to get my buoyant reaches. So when you're in water, the damping also changes. So I'm gonna restart so I can go back to normal. Do I like Carlson? I'm not sure who that is. Is there a difference between using set friction and dampening? I don't actually know. Let me see. Love 2D set friction. Friction determines how the shape reacts when they slide along other shapes. Low friction indicates a slippery surface like ice. Okay, and then let me see what Love 2D linear damping is. It sets the linear damping of a body. The linear damping is the rate of decrease of the linear velocity over time. A moving body with no damping and no external forces will continue moving indefinitely, as is the case in space. True. A moving body with damping will gradually stop moving. I don't know what the difference is. It sounds like the same thing. Also, my browser froze. Look, I can't... What's happening? Dude, this is so bugged. Oh my gosh. Oh! Well, whatever. Laren, thank you so much. Oh my gosh, I'm just noticing that on my chat monitor, it's not showing me the super chats. Thank you so much for the support. I appreciate that so much. I hope I didn't miss any other ones. If you ever donated and I didn't thank you, I'm so sorry. I need to figure out a better way to show supers on my chat monitor. I'm so sorry about that. I must have some of my settings wrong, because I was on Laren. I was able to see your message, but on my chat monitor it didn't show the donation. Thank you so much. Thank you. Let's see. Is there a benefit to using so many files for one feature, like multiple files? Yeah, the benefit, I'll show you exactly. The benefit is just for organization. That's it. So I have a horrible file right here that I need to do the same thing to. This file, new UI, handles a big portion of all of the UI in the game. And this file is horrible because it's very long. It is 2,834 lines long. This file is huge. And the reason why splitting files up is nice is because if I have to find something in this file, it's a nightmare because there's 2,800 lines for me to go through. It's very difficult for me to search for stuff. But if I knew that everything is organized like the player or enemies, where like I have player main, I have player update, I have player draw, all of this stuff, it's organized in a way where all of these files, like a couple hundred, is a lot easier for me to sort through compared to new UI's 2,800, which the player used to be 2,800 as well. I had to refactor it a while ago. Refactoring is a term in programming that just means you take a big ugly file like this and you don't change any of the functionality. You just make it easier to work with, and this file really needs it. Wolf, hi, welcome in. What's the difference between framework and engine? It's debatable, but typically I always say that a framework is just a lightweight set of text libraries, kind of like what I'm using here. And an engine is like a fully featured like program that you work with. So like Unity is an engine because you can like see the world in the engine. You don't have to have an external level editor like I have here. And an engine basically is just all encompassing, and framework is more lightweight. Do you often enter a flow state while coding? Yeah, I would say normally I do. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say yes. I don't enter it as much as I used to. When I was working, I would say I entered that all the time. But now I spend a lot of time thinking without coding. I spend a lot of time like planning things out internally, and then when I code it, it doesn't take very long. I've seen longer stuff at college. Some people have 3,000. Yeah, I've seen some long files. I've seen some stuff that's way worse than this. But what's nice about this file is that I wrote 100% of it. Every single line in this file was written by me. So it's not that hard for me to figure out where stuff is. But let's say I hired a new developer and they were working with this file. They didn't write any of this code. They would have to figure it out. And if it's all disorganized like that, it just makes it so much more harder to work with. You remind me of Michael Reeves. I didn't ever hear that until my most recent video. My most recent video, I got so many people saying that I look like Michael Reeves, and I don't personally see it. Like, we're both white guys with glasses and brown hair. That's true, but I don't think that we look that similar. I also don't think that we sound that similar either. I'm trying to add hidden stars in my game, like Super Mario 3D Land. Ooh, I love that game. Any idea how you can make that on the GUI that tells you which star you picked up? Well, the way they do it in Mario 3D Land, isn't it they have, like, it's just, like, over... What is it? Just a HUD element that has, like, an outline of a circle, an outline of a circle, an outline of a circle, and if you got, like, the middle one, it would fill in the middle one. Something like that, I think, is how it's doing that. I got another dono? Oh, I did. Oh, I'm so sorry for missing that. Flops, thank you so much. Money you took from your mom? Well, thank you, mom. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for the donation. Yeah, I'm gonna write a note for myself to fix chat monitor donos. That's embarrassing that I'm missing those. I thank you so much for pointing that out. So this is gonna be on my computer monitor until I have that fixed. I definitely do not want to miss any. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Alrighty. We are about at the end of stream. Thank you so much for being here. Anything else I should talk about before wrapping things up? I think next week I am going to stream at noon my time, because it's been way too frantic setting everything up right beforehand, just with the timing of everything. So let's plan next week to do 1 hour later than I did this week. We'll tell you about super chats. Well, yeah, if I miss any in the future, definitely let me know. But I'm gonna try and fix my my chat bot so that I can see those. I used to be able to. That's very weird that it's not working anymore. I guess I could use Sheep Chat for that. I have another software that I could use. I got confused when my pick came up in search. Is that actual? Tigris, thank you so much for the donation. Is multiplayer planned? Yes, multiplayer is actually planned. In fact, I have proof of that because in here I have a multiplayer section where I already have it set up where you're able to click on invite a friend. It shows your friends list in Steam, and then you can click on a person and it sends them an invite. So I have the connecting the Steam clients together, but the part that I need to work on is actually making them work together, actually collaborate. And I don't want to make promises that this is for sure going to happen, but it is for sure going to be attempted. So I'm going to do my best. I was saying something not very important, I'm imagining. But thank you. Every time I watch the stream, I get more motivation to make my game. Cool. I'm glad to hear that. And yeah, I will be back next week for more Moonshire Monday goodness. But thank you so much for being here. I had a really, really good time today. We got Foxay, Abdul, Woolly Mammoth, Bilal, Weltrill, Sharp, PH Dev, Adele, Das. Thank you so much for being here. It was a good one. We got 2 hours of development in. Well, development. More like 2 hours of chatting in. And I really, really do appreciate you all being here. That helps me a lot with my motivation, seeing that there's so many people interested in what I'm working on. That makes it a lot more fun for me to work on. But I will keep you all updated. I will be back next week with another stream, and I will see you all then. Bye, everyone.